Why would anyone want to buy a GTX 580 in 2019? I mean, this card was released near the end of 2010, making it basically 8.5 years old now. It also only has 1.5 gigabytes of VRAM on board, and it's renowned for being a toaster oven. However, there is one big benefit for this graphics card, and that is right here in this case, an OEM motherboard. And it's not just any OEM motherboards. These are the worst of the worst. They don't have the option to disable Secure Boot or turn on CSM, so practically every modern graphics card is out of the picture when it comes to compatibility with these motherboards. Not only that, you can't update the BIOS and unlock these features either because they've practically been abandoned because they're a bit old too. But coupled with this graphics card, which will boot on this motherboard, you can still make some really good value. Considering this card here, you can pick them up for next to nothing on local deals, and these motherboards, practically no one wants them. So what do we have when we put something that no one wants, coupled with something that no one wants? Well, we have Tech Yes City. Now, the card is a perfect fit for this motherboard. However, all is not nandy dandy in the land of Tech Yes City, and that is because this graphics card actually had its support dropped from March 2018 of last year. So any new games that come out, for instance Apex Legends, it won't get driver optimizations from Nvidia anymore. However, that's still not going to stop us from booting up the game and seeing how this thing will run. So we just finished testing out Apex Legends and we got 720p low settings to work, and we got over 60 FPS in this game. And the funny thing was the 1%, 0.1% lows weren't too bad, coupled with a single channel of memory and an i5-3470. So I was actually quite surprised, because if it can play Apex Legends, then it can definitely play CSGO, Dota 2, and even Fortnite absolutely fine. But let's try out some other more demanding titles in 2019, like Resident Evil 2, and then we'll move on to Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So now Shadows of the Tomb Raider was really awkward. We started off with 1080p settings. The characters looked like they had some plague or mosquito infestation on them. And then dropping it down to 720p, this still existed, this problem. And so the FPS was like 42. And surprisingly, the minimums were still okay. It got like 25, so it wasn't stuttering or anything. Just the FPS on the lowest settings possible at 720p wasn't really that magical number of 60 FPS that you'd want if you wanted to play Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So that game's kind of a miss, but Resident Evil 2, lowest settings, 720p, actually did fine, and we got over 60 FPS, 1%, 0.1% lows were fine in this game. So it's time to talk a little bit more about the GTX 580 now. So now the GTX 580 in 2019, it's okay if you just want to get into PC gaming. And as we said in the intro, this card here, one of the big benefits is that it'll combine with practically any motherboard and work absolutely fine. And now for power consumption, it was okay. We did get under 300 watts for whole system power draw. This is with a mediocre 500 watt power supply, so it was okay. It wasn't that bad. And the ambient temperature's in here at about 27 degrees at the moment, so it is quite hot. We're still coming off summer in Australia. And so this whole system together wasn't that bad. Keep in mind, you would want a much better case for cooling if you're going to put something inside this. When I sell this, I'm definitely going to tell the person who buys it, just leave the side panel off. Otherwise, you'll just get too much heat being dumped in the case, and it's better for longevity. But speaking of the graphics card itself, the Fermi cards do indeed run very hot. And this is a combination, of course, due to the GPU architecture running hot itself, but also due to the cooling solution just not really being that up to par. Some of the aftermarket cooling solutions, like the Asus models and stuff, did a lot better of a job. But still, some of these cards, even to this date, I even looked on Gumtree just recently, you could pick one of these up for about 40 Aussie dollars. Well, that's the offer I put in. I'm waiting for the guy to get back to me, and then coupled with a board that no one wants, cheap i5, 8GB stick of memory, and a budget 250GB hard drive, you'll have yourself a whole system that'll run pretty well. So there it is with the GTX 580, and to answer the question of today's video, is the GTX 580 still good for gaming in 2019? Well, the answer is yes and no, because it depends on what type of gaming you're doing. If you're playing competitive multiplayer titles that are easy to play, then definitely yes, and it's a good card to keep an eye out for, with that benefit of basically mating with any motherboard out there. However, on the flip side, if you want to play some of the latest and greatest titles, even on the lowest settings, you may come into some troubles just like we saw with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It also only has a 1.5GB frame buffer, which again, with some of those latest and greatest titles, is going to present a problem for this graphics card in 2019. Now, I also managed to run a quick Firestrike score, and the graphics score would put it somewhere close to that of a 2400G from AMD, maybe a little bit better, but it's still not bad for a GPU that's almost 9 years old. So it's definitely one of those cards to keep an eye out for, even if you sort of just come across one for maybe 20, 30 US dollars or 40 Aussie dollars. It's definitely going to make someone who's just looking to get into PC gaming on a budget happy. And with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button. Let us know also in the comments what you think about the GTX 580. Have you tried one, or are you in the market for one, or is it one of those cards that you keep on your hot list? Love reading your thoughts and opinions as always. And also, if you've got a bit of time, be sure to check out today's video sponsor, Shadow Raid, completely free to play on your mobile. If you're out and about and you've got a bit of spare time, it's definitely worth checking out. Links in the description below, and I'll catch you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.